feel like this video is going to be now or never. Unless I do it now, it's never going to happen. All right. So I have manifested a lot of things in my life, a lot of material things, a lot of amazing experiences in my life that I have manifested over the past, I want to say, I feel like I've been doing manifestation my whole life, but really have magnified and really have understood my experience in the last, I want to say, 6 years, to where I've been very conscious of me manifesting certain things in my life. But this last experience that I've been going through, especially since the beginning of this year, has really changed my whole outlook, not just on manifestation itself, but how all things work together to bring us to our desired goal. The things not just within us, but the things that we perceive as maybe negative outside of us also to have a place and a right to exist in getting us to said desired goal. So now that I've understand a little bit through my personal experience, and now that I'm actually living it, I want to share what's been different and what I've noticed in terms of helping people to understand not just obtaining the physical things that are the material things that we want, but actually to appreciate the journey, the hero's journey that we go through personally that shape us to become the new identities, or to understand how each of us play a place or a part in helping others on the journey, or hopping onto their hero's journey to manifest the life they deserve. So it's very interesting to see it in real time, you guys. So at the beginning of last year, I want to say, so many things were popping off in my life. You guys, if you go back and look at all my videos, I got really consistent on this channel, and I wanted to share so much of the knowledge that I knew back then about manifestation and techniques and all the things that have worked for me. I really want to say that it was such a heightened magnetic time for me in my life, and that had been due to a lot of the inner work that I was doing in the previous years before the last 2 years. So I want to say through the end of 2020 all the way through 2022 was just like a fire time for my manifestations to be letting off. But now that looking back on it, I realize how much of my identity shifted in order for me to obtain some of those things. But as we know, when things go up, they do go down a little bit in order for us to get to our next level. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that has happened in my life, and I have some notes here that I want to reference to share with you how it kind of ties into the laws of the universe, but also into a lot of the manifestation techniques and observations and assumptions that we make about us getting to our journey. All right, so I want to say that I didn't realize how much I still was completely tied into my old identity, not just the identity that I had taken on in those few years that I discussed, but an identity of some things that I still was holding on to from years previous towards then, and not even doing the inner work to understand why certain things were still holding me back and why I was still meeting certain limiting beliefs. Like, I just could not grasp the concept of why some things were still coming back up. Although I was still getting certain manifestations, it seemed that there was always this one little teeny tiny thing missing. All right, so I want to talk about at the beginning of this year in January, I really realized that I wanted to change my life super drastically. I think last year I really was satisfied with the way that my life was going. For you that don't know, I own a 6-figure beauty business and a education business in the beauty industry. And if you guys were to personally know me, you know that the only career that I've ever really been in is the beauty industry, and I've been through many little different sectors within the beauty industry, and I really feel like I cultivated something for myself that really kind of embodied who I was becoming at that time. But I really didn't realize that when it did hit its peak, I was going to really grow out of it or fall out of love with it. And I think that it really just shook me to my core. But what I didn't realize was I was already manifesting a new level for myself in more of the terms to service. So I want you guys to realize that when you have people that are helping you manifest, like these people on YouTube making videos, or coaches, or whoever, like people that actually help and consult and things like that, I think that I've realized that we all come to a point here in our journey where we are getting our manifestations, and then we want to pivot to helping other people, or kind of helping other people learn techniques on how to manifest. And there's a radical shift that happens in your life during that personal time, or for any of you who want to take that step into leadership or helping others, you do go through quite a trial. Now, one of these quotes that I've heard before that really have just kind of changed the way that I see certain things, this quote says that when you set the intention, you also set the trials. Now, trials not meaning a bad thing, but trials in order to understand your emotions during that time. So when you keep meeting resistance and you're getting upset or angry or what have you, you don't realize that the trial is always in your mind, getting past a certain point of view to release the resistance, to drop into neutrality, right? So I decided that all last year I didn't really realize what I was mimicking to myself, that I no longer wanted to physically work behind the chair providing beauty services to other people. I wanted to teach, I wanted to do all these things, but I couldn't really understand why I had such a disconnect to what I was currently doing within the beauty industry. But I had already started this channel, and I started moving forward on making those videos and getting consistent with that. And then I started realizing what my purpose could be in a whole nother world for me. But I believe that I was so attached to my old identity in the field or the career that I had always had for over, at that point, 15 years. So I want to say that sometimes we don't move on to our desired reality when we are attached to our old identities or old ways, or keep doing the same things over and over and over again, keep getting the same results. But I feel like I was just moving around in that career within that beauty industry, and I was feeling a little fulfillment, but at certain times it would be like, all right, I'm over the performative beauty industry and I want to move forward. All right, so last year I was always saying, the one thing I kept saying was I wanted to work from home, and I wanted to sell more of my digital products. I wanted to do all these things like that required me not having to physically work behind the chair for money. So that was always a thought in my head. I would visualize it, I would do the little affirmations or whatever, but I've always dropped it, and I still continue to work on my beauty business and kind of work on these videos. But then I noticed that I just started becoming really like uncomfortable with my life. Although I started manifesting everything that I wanted, I just realizing how much of a hold that current identity had on me. So I realized that at some point I wanted to switch over into another career, but what I was really saying was I wanted to switch into a new way of me handling some things, or handling my emotions, or deciding, because I also knew that I had hit a stalemate with that. So the next thing that I want to talk about was realizing that how burnt out I was. So at January, the beginning of January, in December, you guys, was really like horrible kind of like month for me in general. Emotionally, I was just so upset. I don't know why. Every day I woke up, I was just not feeling it. I was not feeling my work I was doing. I just felt so detached from who I was, and that part of me, I didn't know what it was, but it was just on me that last week of December that I needed to quit my business. I don't know why. I just felt like I just needed to just let it all go. Although I had built it up to where I was successful and happy and I was making good money, I was just like, I don't know why. I just feel the need. So I asked the universe for signs between me and the universe of when it would be time for me to quit, and I said that I would not waver when it presented itself. So there was a lot of series of events that was happening during that time that kind of made me feel like I needed to quit. So the last thing that had happened actually happened the day before on New Year's Eve, where I was like, okay, like this I know is a sign. And so I ended up just quitting. I told my clients that I was taking a break, and I just at first decided I was going to take all of January off. So I did that, and I'm telling you guys, I want to show you how quickly we can shift our lives into our new identity. Now, remember, I told you guys that I wanted to start working from home. I wanted to pick up on doing this YouTube channel again. I wanted to help people. I didn't want to actually provide services for people like in the beauty industry. I wanted to be more on my mindset things. I wanted to work on that. So as soon as I woke up on January 1st, you guys, when I tell you, I try to think back to what I was doing like the day before, like when I was a six-figure beauty business owner, and I literally could not like feel like what it was like back then. I couldn't even really remember it. It had felt like it had been 10 years ago, right? So I feel like sometimes we hold on to this one little thing that we make a part of our identity, and we do not realize that that one thing is holding us back from meeting ourselves and meeting a new level of ourselves. So I didn't really realize how much that part of me was holding me back from experiencing the life that I ultimately wanted to experience now as I am in this current phase of my life. And I think it was a shock to me because I thought that I would grow my business more and more and more, but I just realized that that was not a part of me that I wanted to do anymore. I just wanted to focus more on the things that I had in my heart as a child that I never really got to cultivate, which was the reading and the writing and doing all that more intellectual stuff, not the beauty stuff. So I feel like that was a turning point of me starting to come more into my authentic self. Now, what I didn't realize was how burnt out I was, and I thought that I would be able to turn this camera back on for this specific channel and start making videos again, start pumping out the content, start sharing tips and strategies on manifesting and all that. But it was like, no, like I literally was like so burnt out, you guys. What is it now? It's April and I'm still not 100% fully recovered. But when I tell you January, I slept like there was no other. Like even every time I tried to make videos or I tried to make content, it was like not working. There was something where it was just like the video wouldn't do well or I was just off, like, and I just realized, when am I going to actually surrender? And I just decided that I was going to surrender and allow myself to go through this process because I didn't realize, as much as it was a new start for me, it was also the death or the transformation or the ending of an old version of me. And if I can look back now, all the things were leading up to it, like the loss of friends, the loss of a boyfriend, the loss of like so many things. Like I was already, like, some of my clients were already moving away. The setup was already happening, and I think for the first time since I was able to lie down, not do nothing, not work, I was able to observe where the little shifts, where spirit was already showing up in my life, showing me that the phase that I was in was closing and I was now coming into a new phase, right? So I have been learning recovery, the burnt out, recovering from burnout, you guys. Like, this process that I'm kind of in now has helped me so much on learning how to detach and help me to kind of see things from a different level, if that makes sense. So the next thing that I want to talk about is the law of rhythm. And when I want to kind of talk about the law of rhythm, I want to always kind of preface it as using the seasons for an example. So as we know, we have 4 seasons. We got spring, summer, fall, winter. All right. So when you think about it, like, when you start doing something, you know, in the springtime, it's brand new, it's blossoming, it's blooming, you're booming, everything is good. Summer, you're gaining your confidence, you're gaining your stride. In fall, it's like you have to harvest, you have to like pull back inward, and you have to like kind of go over everything you learned because you've been popping out all summer and all spring, like things have just been amazing for you. And then when winter gets here, it's like that period of your life is kind of just dead and gone, like it's like withered away, and now it's like you're in that resting mode. So when I look at the law of rhythm, like, it's like the pendulum, it swings back and forth. Like, there's a time to this, there's a time to that, like that Bible scripture, like, you know. So it helped me to understand more about the law of rhythm, that where I was in my life was I had to decide to let go so the pendulum can swing back this way. And although what was seemingly kind of negative for me, because I'm like, oh my gosh, or what am I doing? Like, I just quit out of nowhere. Don't know what's gonna happen. Like, the timeline had collapsed, and I had to give the timeline some time to catch up, have to give the 3D time to catch up. And it made me realize that the only thing that you need to do, because there's nothing outside of you that physically needs to be done, it is nothing outside of you. There's no action that you can take that's going to make it better. You have to get your mindset on the right track. You have to get that recovery. So it's helped me to understand, like, now with the law of rhythm, like, I'm in a resting phase, and I'm coming on to, like, now starting to move forward with my new things, right? So the second thing that's helped me, I told myself, now that I've been resting and now that I can kind of go back in my Rolodex and kind of see when the little shifts were happening. I couldn't see because I was always trying to take action. I was always trying to fix whatever has happened in the old timeline when that story was already playing out, instead of physically looking like, well, what did you say you wanted? You said that you wanted to work from home. You said that you wanted to do this. You wanted to do that. It might not have come in the way that I thought was going to happen, like quitting my job suddenly and doing all of that, but it had to, so the way the timeline could collapse and I can get on the new timeline. I hope this is making sense, right? I'm gonna pull it all together for you guys. So what the second thing that I really realized was I wanted to only take inspired action. So inspired action, I don't want to have to physically, like, make things happen in order to make money, to bring in more money, to do all this stuff. I only want to take inspired action, and then the inspired action is really to help me. Now, the funny thing about inspired action is we see ourselves, we're actually going to a different version of ourselves. So if I see myself as being that person that is in shape, because when I see myself at my final form, as far as like helping people, when I'm helping people, when I'm teaching people, and the way that I see myself, I'm someone that's in shape. I'm someone that has a certain different mindset, and my the way I communicate is different. I see all of these things, and so when I do challenging things, it's not about my business or growing my new business. It's now about me pouring into myself, if that makes sense. So now that I'm pouring into myself, I can now better pour into other people when it's time to make that change. So if I choose anything challenging, it is for my personal goals, like eating better, making healthier choices, doing Pilates, doing all those things. Those are my challenging things. It's not learning how to market, learning how to do this, learning how to do that. Those things come as a result of me pouring into myself and pouring into this new identity, this new version. So learning to detach from my overall goal of having a different business, building a different business, it's building my new identity. I hope this is making sense, you guys. All right. So the thing about me learning from blowing up my whole life, pretty much, because I realized, like, I had to allow and let go of that old version of me in order to become, or being on the journey, on the way to me getting to my 2.0 self. Because guys, I don't think that I'm there yet. I think I'm in this space where I am learning how to get there and learning how to observe. So the third thing that I want to share with you guys is I have learned honestly what it means to become the observer, and instead of participating, I am learning that the things that show up just really, just like, I don't have to do anything, guys. We don't necessarily have to do anything. We just assume the position. We assume the position that we are whoever it is that we are want to be, and we do those things. And if we look back and see, now that I can look back and see, I can observe when things are coming in. I can observe that now. It's funny how things work out, you guys. Now I am starting to make money from all of my digital products that I couldn't even really get that many sales on whenever I was pushing them, when I was trying to force them. But now that I haven't said any word about it, my YouTube channel for the business that I had before is like blowing up, and then people are buying my digital products all while I'm sleeping in the bed. It might have taken a little bit of time, but I didn't force anything. And so now here I am working from home. Like, I actually work from home now, and I do the things that make me happy. The more I pour into this new identity, this new version of myself, I can observe and I can see where things are starting to come in. So now I have started to even develop more of my spiritual gifts and more things that I've had more interest in. I've allowed that inspired action to come, and now I do start receiving income from doing. I'm receiving income from not from doing those things, but I'm receiving income from now, like, learning to be my most authentic self. All right, so it's really a difference when you are observing. I can instead of actually being in that first person, I already like made the scene in my head. I went and I saw it and I felt it, but now I can sit back and I can observe and watch me get everything, if that makes sense. So if you want a video on becoming the observer, let me know, because I do have a great analogy for becoming the observer. And the last thing I want to talk to you about, you guys, is today, how I feel, because it's only April, but I really feel like today is the first day that I woke up and I was ready to actually set some goals. And because I feel like I've always led my life with, okay, this is what I want, this is what I'm manifesting, but I've never manifested from actually really learning to manifest a new version of myself and really focus on that, knowing that if I see my new identity and me operating in this new business or whatever it is, I don't need to focus on the business itself. I don't need to focus on the end goal. I don't need to focus on the weight loss itself. I don't need to focus on crafting that new version of me. I only focus on the journey and the habits. So I've detached myself from the outcome and I only focus on the habits and loving the journey and loving to observe me, learning to observe me getting what it is that I want. And so therefore it's a crazy how much like money has come in from me doing nothing but observing me working on my new version, like going only towards those things that are causing me to seek a new level of myself. All right, so you guys, like, this has been really like, I don't know, I just felt like I really needed to talk about this. And although I'm still going through this right now, I really want to bring to you guys like manifestation in a way where it's like you're coming on a journey with me. So I finally realized what I really want to do with this channel now that I have literally come down in a big way in my life. Like, I can start over from a different perspective, and I want you guys to come along with me. And it's just amazing to see the power of our minds, the power of our thoughts. And I don't know, I just have such a new level of respect for myself that I did not think that I would get, because I don't know, I think I was so attached to my old life and my old perspective. And now in this version that I'm becoming, I could be more honest with myself and honest about my shortcomings. I'm more accountable for the fact that certain things are no longer my parents' fault or anybody else outside of me, ex-partners, ex-friends. Like, there are things that are my responsibility now to deal with in order to maintain the mindset it is to hold certain things in my reality. And so I want to share all of that with you guys, and I hope that you like, share, subscribe, get down in the comments and let me know if this little rant or whatever resonate. But literally, guys, I blew up my whole life at the beginning of this year, and I look back on it now, and that first month I was kind of like, what the fuck did I do? But I literally do not regret it, and I just feel like there's so much amazingness that is happening, and I want you guys to come along with me, and I'll see you in my next video. Ciao.